In a previous video, I talked about a new economic model I created called contributionism. And after finishing the first version of that model, I started looking at different economic ideas that might overlap with my own ideas, or more broadly, any ideas that might be promising. One of those ideas was land value taxes from Henry George. And whilst I was learning about Henry George's ideas, I saw a video come up about an economist called Silvio Gesell, who was focused on the topic of land and money. And what I found was a video series from someone called Josh Sidman, who's done an incredible job of covering Gesell's ideas. And of course, I'll link that video course in the description. Now, I quickly binge watched all of those videos and was personally very excited about those ideas, as they were really relevant to the work I had already been doing around Web3 networks and how they can generate income and use that income in a funding process to create a circular and sustainable economy. So Gesell's ideas first came about in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and they culminated in his book, The Natural Economic Order, which was released in 1916. Gesell understood the importance of Henry George's work and generally agreed with his ideas around the importance of land and preventing landowners from unfairly receiving land rental income that they did not earn and instead was due to community contributions. Now, Gesell did have slightly different ideas on how to implement a land reform than Henry George. However, arguably the most important contribution was his theories and ideas around money. It is commonly accepted that money has three functions, being a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. Gesell argued that the store of value function was at odds with money also being an effective medium of exchange. If more people store money and leave it idle, then there's less money that will be available for circulation around the economy. And because of the highly liquid nature of money, money that is highly storable becomes a superior way to store value when compared to goods and services that decay and commonly lose value over the passage of time. Now, think about your house, your car, your electronics, etc. All of these decay and deteriorate over time unless you apply labor to maintain or improve those assets. Storeable money can just be seen as a form of money that can be easily stored. If everyone needed to rely on the availability and active circulation of money as a medium of exchange, it is not in everyone's interests if people are easily able to accumulate and consolidate the amount of money they have over the long term. The problem becomes even worse when someone is able to lend their money to someone else and receive a rate of return whilst having no risk or very limited risk of loss. An example of that could be fully collateralized loans. The collateral could be something like a house that also has insurance. So the lender of money could have a very limited risk of loss when the loan amount is also much smaller than the value of the collateral. If you watched my last video on Henry George, you can start to see some of the similarities with the problems. The lender isn't taking much or any risk and isn't providing any labor. They are being rewarded for just possessing something, and they can continue to increase their ownership of that asset if they can make a positive return on investment where there is no or very little risk of loss. Situations like this increase the likelihood that the ownership of money will concentrate over time. Now, we talked about landowners in the previous video. Well, landowners can rent land to other people at no risk of loss and capture ongoing amounts of income that they didn't earn through any productive contribution. And then holders of storable money can lend their money to people in fully collateralized positions and achieve the same or a very similar outcome. In some cases, they aren't taking any risk of loss at all, but they are capturing ongoing income without making a productive contribution. Now, everyone depends on having access to both land and money. So if those economic systems are going to be even remotely reliable, it should not be easy for land or money to be owned by an increasingly small subset of society. So adopting systems that enable the consolidation of ownership of land or money is not in the interest of society, nor a well-functioning economy. So Gesell's solution to this problem was demurrage money. Demurrage money is money that has carrying costs. And this means the holder would incur some form of gradual loss whilst holding the money. So the money is now less storable and the money will now have more of an impulsion for it to be used more productively. Now, there's obviously a lot to cover around the problems with storable money, but I'll save that for a future video series. But understanding the need for demurrage money led me to think about its application to Web3. What do these ideas mean for emerging Web3 networks, and how could these ideas actually be applied? Let's talk about that in the next video, where I continue my journey into economics.